What do you want to be when you grow up? We all got asked that question as kids, but now we're adults, and a lot of us still don't know the answer. Welcome to Still Browsing, the podcast for grown-ups who are still figuring it out. I'm your host, Ariel, a career explorer who's navigated multiple career changes and is always on the lookout for what's next. Each week, I sit down with professionals from all kinds of industries to break down what they do, how they got there, and what their jobs are really like. Whether you're job searching, pivoting careers, or just curious about what other grown-ups do for work, you're in the right place. Let's figure it out together. Welcome or welcome back to Still Browsing. Today, we are going to be talking to a good friend of mine, Dr. Marvin Tiller Jr., and he is going to be telling us all about his position as a school staff associate at a youth detention center in Baltimore City. Let's get into it. Hi, Marvin. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. To get started, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I had like three or four different things I wanted to do. I wanted to be a bus driver. I literally sat in the front of the bus, made sure I had eye contact with the bus driver, was mimicking them turning the wheel and everything. So I wanted to do that. Wanted to be a teacher. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I literally stole transparency sheets and expo markers and chalk and stuff, literally, so that I could teach the little stuffed animals and doll babies that were in my grandmother's house. So those were the two main things that I wanted to do growing up.
You are aging yourself a bit because you mentioned transparency sheets.
Listen, when them teachers brought those transparency sheets out and those big huge projectors,
Yes,
you knew you was in for a fire lesson.
right. Good times. When I was a child, I also wanted to be a teacher. And so I did the same thing. I didn't take the transparency sheets, but I definitely had like this cute little rocking chair in my bedroom and a little rug and like the stuffed animals. And I used to read books to them. As you know, I became a teacher later on, but
And a darn good one at that.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Let us know what you do for work now.
I am currently a staff associate in the Baltimore City Public Schools.
Can you describe your job to me? What does a staff associate do?
In short, the staff associate pretty much chairs a lot of the committees and things in the building. So my role specifically involves being the 504 chair, being the SST chair, being the testing coordinator, and any other function or role that is needed in the building. I pretty much fill those roles, while ensuring that the educators have what they need, whatever resources and things that they need in order to teach their classes. And so I'm sort of that extra support for the teachers in the building.
What got you interested in doing a role like this?
So majority of my tenure with the city schools was library media specialist, and I was looking to move up the ladder and move more into an administrative role. I was ready to sort of come out of the classroom a little bit, come out of the library in this instance because I was a library media specialist. And so the staff associate position sort of gives me that window to explore more of an administrative role in the school in preparation for becoming an actual assistant principal, moving up further up that ladder, which I do aspire to do at some point in my educational tenure. This role gives me that experience to be more hands-on and be a bridge, if you will, between the administration and between the students and the staff.
Are there any specific requirements or certifications you need?
You definitely would need an advanced professional certificate to be in the staff associate role. If you're talking about moving beyond that and into roles in the district or moving up that ladder to administration, you want to then start looking at the admin one certificate. But in this particular instance, you would need a advanced professional certificate number one. I had a standard certificate within my first 5 years. And then when it was time for me to renew on my first renewal, I said, I want to try and go for that advanced certificate. And I was able to get that, which allowed me to move into the staff associate role. And it's been fruitful.
You did talk a little bit about being a media specialist before this, but I want to go back just so that somebody could follow your career trajectory. So, where did it all start for you? How did you get to this point from the beginning?
My journey was one that was really different. So I earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in religion and philosophy from Shaw University. Stayed in North Carolina a year and a half after graduating and was just trying to, find, okay, what is it that I'm going to do next? And so I ended up landing my first job as a assistant property manager. Was doing pretty good. Those commission checks were lovely. It came to a point where it was time for me to go. Long story short, I returned to Baltimore and was looking to find my way into education and stumbled upon a school looking for substitute teachers. And so that's where my journey began, August of 2012, as a substitute teacher in the Baltimore City Public Schools. And so I did that for a while and then ended up becoming a government teacher for a year and some change. And then I said, okay, the classroom is good, but there's more that I could do and still be in the classroom. At this point, I completed a master's of education degree in curriculum and instruction. And so I ended up seeing that there was a position available for a library media specialist. Interviewed for it, got the position. Literally 2 weeks before I was to start, got an email saying, hey, you can't be a library media specialist because you need XYZ certifications. I needed my actual librarian certification. And so with that in mind, I enrolled at Notre Dame of Maryland University. Thankfully, I had a principal who was understanding and worked with me at that time. She was able to allow me to stay on as a library media specialist while using another grant to keep me in there full time. So I was able to do that for 2 years, graduated from the program, became a full-on library media specialist. From there, started working on my doctorate, moved to another school, and then 6 years later, I'm ready to do something else. When the winds of change are blowing, you got to sort of move with it. And
Yes.
so I was feeling those winds for a long period of time. And right as the new school year started, I got a phone call that this particular school needed a staff associate. I interviewed with them and I've been there ever since. And so it's been a long journey. I'll be celebrating 12 years with the Baltimore City Public Schools. And so it's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in this world.
Congratulations on 12 years. That's amazing, honestly.
Thank you.
We're
Yeah.
millennials, so a lot of millennials bounce around. I bounce around a lot, but what I'm hearing you say is you've been able to kind of maximize on the potential of being inside of the system and just finding the opportunities that are there for you and bouncing
Mhm.
around within the system. It's a good option for a lot of people if they don't want to move organizations or districts or whatever. They can just look for the opportunities that are within where they already are. So
Right.
I appreciate that about your journey. What are some soft skills that someone might need to do your job?
Time management has to be something that is at the forefront. You have to be able to multitask. With my specific position, you are asked to do multiple things at multiple times, and then you may be asked hey, can you cover this class? And it's like, okay, when you pull me out of here to cover this class, that means that. So, you have to find ways to be a team player, but don't allow them to take advantage of it. They see that you're a team player, and they oftentimes that can be used to their advantage. So you have to be able to set those boundaries, also be able to respectfully say no is a complete sentence. When you have other responsibilities, like these are your main responsibilities. When you have to meet those deadlines, you have to be able to say, sorry, this can't happen at this time because I have to do X, Y, and Z. You got to recognize that sometimes things change on a fly, on a whim. And so you have to be able to roll with those punches and recognize that things change every day. Are you going to sit and sulk, or are you going to roll with it and not let the ship go down? So those are the kind of things that I think are important if you want to be successful in this particular position and with education as a whole.
You mentioned that things change on a day-to-day basis and you kind of wear a lot of these hats. But are you able to kind of take us through what a day in the life might look like for you? Just like an average day in the life. If let's say nothing goes crazy.
If nothing's changing, my day starts. Let me just put this out there. I work at a youth detention center. That is where my particular school is housed. So a typical day starts at 7:35. I have to come in, I have to be patted down, I have to put my belongings in the locker. If I need to do work, it needs to be on a OneDrive. Usually I have virtual meetings, either 504 meetings, or I may have an SST meeting. I may have to do some learning walks. I don't get to observe as a qualified observer, but I'm able to do learning walks and give feedback to teachers and things like that. Lunch is at 10:45 to around 11:30. Come back, may have another meeting, may have to do some type of paperwork. And then at 2:35, that bell rings, 2:40, I'm out the door. But the day is usually busy, especially dealing with the inmates. So having those interactions with them as well. Caseloads you're assigned to, you have to check on them every once in a while, and they may need some breather from a particular class. So they want to come sit in your office. And so you have those opportunities as well.
Do you find it challenging to work at a youth detention center and have those interactions? Because I can imagine that they are going through quite a bit considering that they're in there. So, how do you find that experience working with the students?
It's challenging. It's hard, but I've been in alternative school programs before. So it's not that I have not seen a lot of those behaviors before. It's just that this is another level of teaching and learning and getting to know students. And with those challenges, you definitely try to be understanding with the particular circumstances and recognizing that as long as they're here, there's an opportunity to nurture them and create some opportunities for them to still be successful. And that's what we try to tell them. Though this is where you are, this does not mean that you are not worthy of a quality education. And that's why we come. That's why we're here. Because just like students that go to the high level schools and even the other traditional schools, you all have a just amount of a right to a quality education than students who are in those traditional settings. And so we do our best to ensure that they have a quality education. We do our best to ensure that they have all of the resources and essentials that are needed. And, with those in between issues and things that happen, we try not to let it get the best of us. Being there is not for the faint of heart. It's not a cakewalk by any stretch. And so we know that it would be hard to get others in here to be in this environment. And so when we make that commitment to be here for 180 school days, we make the best of it.
What would be the salary range that someone could expect for this role or a similar role?
So The assumption being that they've had some experience in the classroom or some type of city school experience. I believe the start is around 75K, and it could go even further than that, depending on what your evaluations look like, because evaluations play a big factor in our salary. And so, if your evaluations are good, you can almost guarantee that you will receive a salary bump. Every July 1, you're seeing an increase in your salary. Of course, with the cost of living, you'll get those. Everybody says, "Oh, I do it for the children." That's fine. That's fine. But you do it for the salary too, and that's
Right.
fine. You can say it's okay. It's okay to say you do it for the salary too. You can love the children and love that salary every 2 weeks as well. Come on, somebody.
Right.
So
Exactly. So I know that you are interested in becoming an assistant principal, but from where you are in the position you're in, what other sort of paths can someone take if they wanted to be promoted or reach a higher level?
you could actually come out of the school altogether, and you could work at central office doing some educational associate things. They have educational associates and staff associates that serve in specific capacities. So you could be an instructional coach, you could be a literacy coach, you could lead certain departments. The sky's the limit. There are opportunities for advancement in the district. One thing I will credit the district for is that they create those opportunities for teachers and staff to advance and to grow in this profession. It's just a matter of ensuring that you have the proper credentials and that you're working with someone who can see to it that you have those credentials in place so that it's not difficult when it comes time for them to go about that hiring process.
Let's shift gears. I did hear you say you out of there by 2:40. That's nice. That's really nice to be able to leave at 2:40, even if you're starting work early at like 7. 2:40 is a great cutoff time.
Oh, great.
So, how would you describe your work-life balance in this role?
At 2:40, I don't think about that building till the next day at 7:35. See, the thing is, when you've worked in the district long enough, you start to understand how important it is to set boundaries and know when to cut off your notifications, because not everybody has that work-life balance. A lot of people, God bless them, they think that everybody wants to work off the clock, and no, we don't, because we have other things, and we have other parts of our lives that we have to put as our focal point. And so I've learned, and they joan me at work. They talk about me at work. They know I come in there at 7:35, and I tell them, when I come in there, you got me. I'm going to give you my everything. I'm going to give you 100% from 7:35 to 2:40. 2:41, you see in my car, go past this building. That's it. If you sending me emails outside of that window, depending on how I feel, you probably won't get a reply till I wake up the next morning. You have to set those boundaries. Again, they poke fun at me, but I don't care, because I have other responsibilities outside of being an educator. And
Mhm.
those things immediately take precedent as soon as I leave that building. If it's not done within that window, it's going to be handled the next day. And you have to be able to have those boundaries and make sure that people respect those boundaries, because people will try it. People will try to overstep those boundaries.
I loved it when I was an educator, regardless of what district I worked at. I always thought that a part of the role of being a good educator was staying late, coming early. Like, I didn't even believe I could do my job within that, what is it, like 6, 7 hours during the day. And
Right, right.
and I had to stay late and work the weekends. It literally wasn't until towards the end of my career as an educator, where I was approaching burnout, that I
Mm.
was like, no, if it doesn't get done by 3 o'clock, it won't get done until I come in the next morning. And it's just going to have to be what it is. So I definitely get what you're saying about setting those appropriate boundaries. That's definitely some advice I would offer to anybody looking to get into the education profession in general. Because you're right. Like, they know. And what's really interesting about that is, once I transitioned out of being an educator and into corporate, so now I work in education technology, I work with a lot of former teachers, and a lot of these corporations, what they do is kind of play on teacher culture. So they already
Ah,
know that we're coming from a space where we're expected to give more and do more and stay late and go the extra mile. And so you have to be very careful in these environments too. Like you're saying, I work from home, 5 o'clock, computers closing. I mean,
come
I'll see
on.
y'all at 9 tomorrow morning.
There
Like, I'm
you
turning off
go.
these notifications. You can't get a hold of me. The last thing I have for you is advice. What advice would you give for a younger person going into this role, like a recent graduate? And then, do you have any advice for a career transitioner?
I think the best advice I could give them is to lean heavy on your mentor, those individuals that are assigned to you to kind of help you in those first and second year transitioning in, being a new educator. Listen, you're not going to get everything right, and that's okay. We're going to make mistakes, but lean heavy on your mentors. And I'm actually going to leave you with something that someone told me when I first started. And I laughed it off when I first heard it, but it made a whole lot of sense as I moved into my teaching role. Take your lunch. Go to lunch. Go to lunch. Go eat. Don't work that lunch break, however long it is. If you're in a school that you get a 45-minute lunch, a 1 hour lunch, I love you, because that wasn't always the case when I was in education. It was even 30 minutes and that was that. And it was like, that don't even give me enough time to put it in the microwave, fix it up, sit down, have a conversation. As
Mhm.
soon as I sit down, I got another class. And you better
Mm.
hope you at least have a planning period after your lunch. But
Mhm.
no, that's neither here nor there. Take your lunch, please. That's the advice that I'm going to give you. If you're transitioning from another career and you want to come into education, my best advice that I would give you is it goes back to something we were talking about earlier about setting your boundaries, knowing your boundaries, knowing that your no is your no. You're only one person. You cannot avail yourself to everybody, and you are on the verge of burning out, going crazy, because it gets busy. I don't care what level of education you're in, all of it has its busy moments.
Mm.
Self care is important. Your rest is important. Take those opportunities to put the laptop away for a minute. If you have time saved up and mentally you're just not feeling it, get up and make that phone call and say, I'll see y'all next day.
Mhm. Take the PTO. Take
It's
the
totally,
PTO.
listen, you've earned it.
Yes.
You've earned it. Don't let them make you feel bad because you want to use your PTO. Now, if you abuse it, that's a whole nother story. But in all seriousness, it's important that whether you're a new, fresh teacher or you're coming from another field, I think that rest and self care should be paramount to you if you want to be successful. Don't overdo it. Those are the pieces of advice that I would leave anyone, whatever your pathway is to education.
That was great advice. Oh, I appreciate your time and you sharing your career journey with us. This is going to be so helpful. to someone who is looking to get into the field. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for tuning in to Still Browsing. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone. And if you have a cool job story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to be a guest. See you next time.